So okay. Mhm. All right, everybody. Well, we're gonna go ahead on and get kicked on off into our lesson for this morning. First of all, good morning to everybody. This cold, cool, crisp Sunday morning. And
It feels northern.
feels northern. Oh yeah, yeah. I want to say welcome back to the Brooks family. They celebrating their anniversary, so uh, yeah, missed y'all too. Missed y'all too. All right, so we have talked about the crazy cycle, and we all remember what that is. Just this constant circle of disrespect and unloving behavior between husbands and wives. And then we moved on into the energizing cycle, which is what we've been talking about for the last, let's say, about 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, different ways and means for us as husbands and wives to enact loving and respectful behavior to our spouses in order to energize them. And so today we're going to move on to the rewarded cycle. So before we get too far in, just to recap what we talked about over these last couple of weeks, as you all know, with the men, with the husbands, um, the author created this acronym couple, and the purpose of this acronym was to make it so that it was easy to remember how to display loving behavior. So with closeness, one of the things that you could consider asking yourself is, am I always remembering to move towards her and accept her need to talk and connect with me to reassure my love? Right. And that can also be physical contact as well. Openness. Do I share my thoughts with her? And am I sure I'm not resisting her efforts to draw me out? Understanding. Am I careful not to try to fix her every time she talks about one of her concerns or problems? Am I remembering that she is an integrated personality and whatever happens affects all of her, especially her emotions? Peacemaking. Am I always willing to resolve issues? And am I careful to never say, let's just drop it and move on? Loyalty. Do I constantly look for ways to tell her that I will be loyal to her forever? That she's the one love of my life, the only woman for me? And then lastly, we ended with esteem, which is, do I always let her know that I treasure her and put highest value on her as a person? Do I let her know that what she does and thinks are important to me? Does she know I couldn't possibly do without her? So I know we don't have too many husbands in the room right now, but for the one that we do have right now, did you find any challenges trying to implement any of these strategies?
No, I haven't, but I try a lot to meet these different items. But some of it I got down pretty pat, but I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. I do my best. Okay.
So that's a great answer. I think that that's really where we all are. We're all works in progress. And so, we'll never master all of these different things. We're human. We have different spaces where we have strengths, and then we have different spaces where we have weaknesses. And so, like Brother Thigpen said, there are certain spaces where there's still room to grow. And I think that that's a great place to be in. That's a very mature mindset to have, to say, I know that I can do better in these spaces. And so, yeah. Any other comments before we move on? Okay.
I just wanted to ask from the wives, did you feel like your husbands were making moves towards this acronym? Did you see anything? Anybody got a shout out for their husband where you saw that he was trying to make moves towards this acronym couple?
Yeah, I'll give out some shout out. I think definitely with the understanding piece, he was working on that part and just hearing me out in some of the ways that I feel about things and trying to see what my head is at so he can try to better, improve the communication and kind of just see where I'm at with stuff. And then that helped with closeness and peacemaking. He's a peacemaker at heart anyway, so he'll be wanting to fight. That'd be me.
Thank you for sharing. I'll shout out BJ. I think he's really a master of these acronyms and a lot of different, really in all of them. So I think he was very apt to teach this because it's something that he practices daily. So my shout out to you. Yeah, okay, so for chairs, I'm just gonna go quickly over the things of, that us as wives were focusing on. Number one, when we appreciated conquest, I am always standing behind him, letting him know I support him in his work endeavors in his field. For hierarchy, we were talking about, do I let him know I respect and appreciate his desire to protect and provide for me and the family? And what have I said recently to communicate this? For authority, have I gone on record because he has primary responsibility for me, even to die for me? I recognize him as the primary authority. Do I let him be the leader? How have I helped him? How have I helped in this regard recently? So these are some questions we have to ask ourselves. And for insight, do I trust his ability to analyze things or offer solutions and not just depend on my intuition as a woman? Relationship, do I spend shoulder to shoulder time with him whenever I can? Do I let him know that I am his friend as well as his lover? And sexuality, do I honor his need for sexual release even if I don't feel like it? These are some questions that we have to ask ourselves. And so, wives, I will ask you the same exact question. What challenges did we face during these last 6 weeks as we were looking through chairs? What challenges did we face in implementing these strategies? Anybody's hands will do. I'm just gonna look at the light. I'll walk up the aisle. I'm just gonna start. It's hard. It's hard.
Challenges. For me, I would say my most struggle piece is the relationship. Do I spend shoulder to shoulder time with him whenever I can? And I say that because I know there's some areas of opportunity because Brooks is a very heavy into like sports and stuff. And I know I could sit down and try to spend that recreational time when watching a game or something. But I gotta do better with that because I don't be wanting to. But I'm gonna try to do better going forward.
I'm gonna have to ditto that one because I know me and BJ were supposed to play a video game this past weekend. I was like, I ain't get around to that. I would have liked to. Anybody else want to express a challenge?
All right. Well, similar husbands. Do anyone have any shout outs that they want to give to their wife, and how she has made moves with respect to the CHAIRS acronym? And all of you all's hands should probably raise right now. So I'm gonna walk on down the aisle, help y'all out.
Kelly always tried to honor me as the head, and so she's always trying to make efforts to ensure that she's not, because she's been on her own for a long time, and so she tries to put a lot of effort in making sure that she's not like running in a space where she's independent of me, but always trying to ensure that she shows me that she respects and honors my leadership.
That's good. That's good. For those who just walked in, we're talking through couples and chairs, just recapping and just asking the husbands, have they noticed or want to give a shout out to their wives for their work in implementing this, implementing these strategies?
Well, yeah, I had a few things on my mind this week, early week, and we kind of discussed them, and I think it helped some. She acted upon my complaint, so I guess that was a positive thing. So I really appreciated that, and I think I let her know my attitude. Probably told her so.
Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
So this week we had a kind of a meeting. We had a financial decision to make. I thought that Erica demonstrated just a respect. I would say just by for us coming together and sitting together and her listening to my points and I listening to her points and just being on the same page in terms of a decision that is critical for us. So I thought that was one way that Erica demonstrated it. She did try to do basketball yesterday, but I told her, I was like, I'm good just today. But I appreciate her at least offering that. So
Awesome, man. That's awesome. That's awesome.
What was the question again?
How's your wife shown? How has she implemented these strategies
Oh,
these last couple of weeks?
well, she did a good job implementing them. We didn't go out and play football because it's cold outside, or throw the football, so it's cold outside. But she does a good job of implementing these items.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you all. I certainly have to shout out my wife, Nee. She does an exceptional job of implementing these different strategies, even before we really knew what they were. And we were talking about this. These are really hard to do. These are really hard to do, especially when you're looking at those middle three with hierarchy, authority, and insight, because that requires you to step out on faith, and that's what she has had to do. With me, in terms of decision making, and so I've always been very, very appreciative of her trust, and also, when I don't quite meet the mark, her ability to just kind of help us to move forward and saying, okay, you know what, that didn't work. And, we both acknowledge it, I acknowledge it. And, but it's not something that she harps on too long. And so I've always been very, very appreciative of that. So,
Anymore.
well, yeah, it takes work. It takes work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I do want to say too that one of the things the book brought up, before I go to the next slide, one of the things that the book did bring up was, what if I, as a woman, relate more to the blue lens, or he, as a man, relates more to the pink lens? And that can happen based on how someone is raised. A lot of different factors can determine how you see through what lens you see things through. And you and your spouse just have to know that. You and your spouse just have to know whether or not your spouse relates more towards one thing or another. And sometimes you just learn, like literally, BJ and I have been married for 19 years, and I learned something key about him yesterday. And I was like, oh my God, how did I miss this? How did I miss this key thing that he's been teaching me through his actions? Sometimes I'm a little dense, though. I'm not gonna lie. Like I can't read between the lines, but it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing, learning curve for your spouse. And we just have to be open and receptive to it. And the thing that I learned about him, okay, so BJ is very affectionate towards me, but I am I know my friends think this is not true, but I am extremely self-centered, more self-centered than any of you could possibly imagine in myself. And he's very, very affectionate towards me all the time. And my self-centeredness says he is affectionate towards me because he thinks I want affection. That's my self-centeredness. He thinks I want affection, so he's self-centered. He's affectionate. But yesterday, I realized he's affectionate because he wants affection himself. And so I would always let him come to me and be affectionate to me because I'm like, okay, he wants to do this. Here, go ahead, give me a kiss, God. But I realized yesterday he's affectionate because he himself wants that affection. And so this morning I woke up and I was like, oh my God, where's he at? I gotta go give him a kiss first. I'm like, let me run. And so those are just things, little by little that we learn about our spouses.
yeah. And, like we've always said before, you learn through experience. And so when you learn better, obviously you try to implement and do better, but also communication. Communication, we said it repeatedly, that is key. Just say exactly what it is that you want. And, you can just skip a whole lot of confusion. So.
Oh, yep.
I was going to say, I think that part that you mentioned, Nellie, that once you realize that that's what he wants, that you made an effort to provide the things that he said he wanted, because I feel like that is like, I feel like that's it. Like at the end of the day, if someone is telling you that that's what they need, regardless if that's your lane, like that's what you kind of lean towards. You mentioned that you're not necessarily an affectionate person, but I'm like, if you know that kind of drives your person, your spouse, then you have to lean into that because that's what they say they need. Because otherwise, if you aren't doing that, then they're just like, okay, well, if I know I'm not gonna get this, then I'm talking about me. I start to just be like, you know, because I know I'm not going to get it in return. So it's like you have to lean into the person and what they're saying they need, because it is all of us are sacrificing something of ourselves to be in a relationship. It's not necessarily, well, it should be anyway. So I'm just saying that I think that that's the key point to all of this. Everything that we're talking about is like, the chairs, the, other acronyms, like all those things kind of go hand in hand. They're tandem. They're tied together tethered together because at the end of the day, these are the things that kind of drive one another to be encouraged in the relationship.
Because otherwise you're vulnerable, right? You've given a piece of vulnerability. BJ gave me that piece of vulnerability yesterday, and if I hadn't done that, then what it ends up feeling like is that either you're ignoring me or you actually don't care that this is a need that I have. And if I've exposed myself to you, and when I think of exposure, I always think of Adam and Eve in the garden, naked in the garden, and they were vulnerable and exposed to each other. And if I expose myself to you and you turn away to not see the vulnerability, or you laugh at my vulnerability, or scoff at my vulnerability, all of those things, metaphorically, talking about a relationship, then it just feels bad. And what I want to do is run and cover myself. And now I'm going to protect myself. So that means I'm going to protect myself by not sharing the things that I need. Or worse, is that a hand? Or worse, I think what ends up happening in marriages is sometimes people will go outside of their marriage to have things that they need to be fulfilled.
So what's the difference between being vulnerable and being transparent? Because when I read vulnerability, it says, the definition says, the quality of state of being exposed to possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. So what's the difference between that and transparency?
I think they kind of go hand in hand, right? So you have to be, if you're being transparent, you're just you're making sure that there's nothing hidden. There's nothing being withheld. Everything is out on the table. In terms of vulnerability, these are things that are very sensitive to you. These are things that, with the wrong person, they could hurt you with it, right? I mean, like how Neldra just kind of explained that, it's all like, now I've put myself out there. This is a very sensitive topic to me. This is something that I need. And, based on the response, I feel like I need to go and cover myself up. I mean, when we're vulnerable, it's just like a knight with armor. It's all like wherever they're vulnerable at, that's where they can get hit at. So you want to protect that area. But in our marriages, we don't need to be protecting ourselves, or we shouldn't be, at least. We want to make sure that we are completely open and exposed and, willing to give those sensitive matters to ourselves.
I wanted to say now, I'm not, I just prayed. When you asked the question, I said, Holy Spirit, help me, because I don't know. But what the Holy Spirit just gave to me is transparency is giving truth. It's letting the truth be out, whereas vulnerability is there's emotion tied to it. And so when you're being transparent, hurt cannot follow being transparent. You're like, listen, these are the things that are going on. I want you to take a look at this, and that. This is just matter of fact. It's transparent. It's letting somebody see in. But vulnerability is like, I'm letting you see in, I'm opening myself, I'm exposing myself to an emotional outcome or response.
Like Brian said, I think they kind of go hand in hand, but I think that transparency is more so what you're giving out, and vulnerability is what you may be willing to receive. Like if I'm gonna be open and vulnerable, I'm letting myself I'm giving myself an understanding that I might be attacked. I might be attacked if what I'm giving out and I'm going to receive may harm me. I'm willing to still put it out there, knowing that there's a possibility of being attacked with this information that I'm giving out. Transparency is putting more stuff out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Letting your guard down, being able to just being able to just let your guard down, like you said, regardless of the consequences, because being exposed, it's a possibility. You may not get what you need from that vulnerability, but you do it anyways. It's allowing yourself to be safe when it could be unsafe.
But I feel like the question was deep, like there was some other layer to it. Do you want to mention what that other layer was? Because I feel like we're answering a question, but we don't know like the foundation of that. Yeah.
Well, I think as men, we should not be, I believe we shouldn't be vulnerable. I'm with being transparent, but I just, my spouse is not the enemy. The devil is the enemy, And you open yourself. I know there's probably scriptures in the Bible about standing firm and being on guard. And I just feel like sometimes when you're vulnerable, you open yourself for attack. If you see your wife as that person. I don't see my wife as an attacker, as an enemy, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, I feel like the word vulnerable is just misused for me personally, because I just think we should be more transparent. And I didn't go any deeper, but I don't know. I always had that question about why do we use vulnerability?
That's a good question. I think it really cuts both ways, depending on the situation, because while it may feel like I shouldn't be vulnerable because I don't want to, expose myself to whatever the response may be, on the other end of that, you're allowing yourself to be susceptible to attack from the outside then, right? And so, just the example that Nee gave with me and the affection thing, if she were to kind of laugh it off or, scoff at it or completely ignore it or don't act on it at all, like make no kind of steps towards it. And, I'm in a space where I'm around other people, other women who seem to be very free flowing with this, it now, and I know that's a extreme example, but whatever it may be for you, that now you're allowing the devil to use your vulnerability in a different kind of a way. Marriage is a journey, our spouses, it's going to take some time for them to be able to, not deal with our vulnerabilities, but be able to act on them sometimes. Some people, they can do it very quickly. Nee did it very quickly. But there's been times where it is taking literally decades for me to finally get, okay, this is what she needs. She's been vulnerable with me. This is how I need to actually do something. And it doesn't come out right the first time or the first 4 or 5 times, but it's like, I'm gonna just keep going at it, because again, it's a journey. So I would say, vulnerability, I know that's like it feels like a little bit of a feminine kind of a word to a certain extent, but it's like one way or another, you're gonna be vulnerable. one way or the other. The devil's gonna use it one way or the other, you know?
But it shouldn't be used as a way for arguments between, like, you come back later and you've already expressed that, part of you, and then down the line later, it comes back and you use that same vulnerability, against you in a way to prove an argument. Like that's where I see problems with that. You come forth, you're showing you're being open, and then, and then you come back and use it against you. And I think that's my biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
I think I see what you're saying. But vulnerability is kind of like if you share something with me, right? As a man, you want to share something with me as a man. The vulnerability piece is that I might take it a certain kind of way. I might laugh at you, right? So that's going to make you, because again, that's you putting something out so that you can receive. You're being vulnerable because you're looking to receive something from the exchange of communication. So you're being vulnerable, right? You're being trusting, right? And so that's what I'm saying. But I think I see what you're saying. You want to guard yourself from being vulnerable, that the information you put out, you don't be used to attack you against later. I got you, what you're saying.
Well, I'll say that as far as vulnerability is concerned, brothers, I want to encourage you to be vulnerable, even if it doesn't feel good, right? I want to encourage the vulnerability. I want to encourage that sharing simply because you never know what information you may be giving to your wife that she will hunker down in prayer for you. And if it's one thing women know how to do is pray, right? So there's that. Your woman can cover you in those places where you are exposed. Your woman can cover you and give a covering over you that otherwise you wouldn't have. When you reserve yourself, you reserve things that are important to you, and you don't express those things to that person who is with you and for life, then you're literally carrying something all by yourself, and there is an exposure. I always have to ask myself, how long do I want to be married to him? Do I see myself as an old person with him? And I do. And so because of that, I don't want to leave things on the table. Like, there is nothing he doesn't know about me. I tell him I've told him stuff that I probably shouldn't tell my husband because he's my husband, but I tell him anyways because I want him to know. And there have been times where I've told him things and he's recoiled. What? And it definitely made me get back into a turtle shell. And it took me maybe a year or 2 or 3 to come back out and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this thing again. But there is a trust that we have, and this is going to help us get into the next part of the reward cycle. There is a trust that we have, that we should have in God, regardless of this person that we're married to, because at the end of the day, this person that we're married to was born of a woman, nursed at a breast, went through elementary, middle, and high school just like you did. Your spouse is not the Messiah. Your spouse is not perfect, just like you are not perfect. And there is, when you're in a marriage and you're going through life, as Christians, we are married as a service to God, not as a service to man. That's where we get things mixed up, especially because people have taken marriage and they've given it to everybody. They've made marriage a legal thing. Marriage is and always has been a spiritual thing given by God, created by God, instituted by God. This is for Him, not for us, not for the dress and the tuxedo and the bridesmaids and the flower petals. Marriage is an institution between us for God. And so when you take it and you say this marriage is between us and you forget that this is a service to God, then you're like, well, I'm not going to do this. I will do marriage, but under these circumstances, but I won't do these things because these are the things that make me feel uncomfortable. And these are the things that do make me feel comfortable. So I'll do these and I won't do these. And you start cherry picking what God sees as a successful marriage. One of the things, I'm going to skip this slide. So can I? One of the things that the book points out that I want to read is that the difference between successful couples and unsuccessful couples is that successful ones keep getting up and keep dealing with issues. This is page 277. Unsuccessful couples want it easy. They want a microwave marriage. They want it now. They want their needs to be met. They don't want there to be any conflict. They want everything to be happy. That is the epitome of immaturity. When you look at marriage and you say, my walk with Christ every day is hard, I literally right now, as I stand right here, I have a heaviness over me. And I'm just like, sometimes I just want to give up. I really do. I just want to give up on it all, right? And when you know that this is what Christianity is like, real life Christianity is like, marriage is going to be the same way too. But the point is, you don't give up so easily on yourself, making changes, on your spouse, making changes. You just don't give up easily.
Yeah, that's really well said. And, I'm glad that we kind of skipped to that part because, I think one of the things that we fall into, and Keith kind of alluded to it, is all like, we kind of bring up unresolved issues. And the reason why they keep coming up is because they're unresolved. They're unresolved. And so that means, as exhausting as it may be, as tiresome as it may be, as much as you just really want to just be like, okay, heard it for, the umpteenth time, there's still work to be done there. There's still work to be done there. And if we didn't really get into it, and he kind of hit on it a little bit, but if you look at your marriage the same way that God has taught us with, we're the bride of Christ, right? The church is the bride of Christ. We are. Mm-hmm. We are as imperfect as we can be. Mm-hmm. We sin daily. Mm-hmm. And God gives us that patience and that grace to continue to get up and do it all over again. Like Nee was just saying, some days we wake up and we're all like, I am ready to quit. I am ready to hang this up and I can just go ahead and join out into the world and I'll be good to go. Mm-hmm. But God has put something in us to make us continue to get up and be all like, you know what, God, yesterday was a bad day. I know I sinned through the roof, whatever. Let me get up and try it again. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep coming to you. I'm going to keep, trying to do better by you and for you. All of us, since the time we've been baptized to where we are right now, we have grown tremendously, right? Why can't we apply the same principles and concepts to our marriages, right? We should be always striving. We don't giving up or just kind of, settling in and being like, well, this is it, should never be an option for us. We should always be in a space of constant improvement, and not just simply, just to, to do better by our spouses, which is a good thing. But like Neldra said, we're trying to do right by God as well, right? Mm-hmm.
So if you look at this slide, the reward cycle heavily focuses on the unconditional part. I remembered this differently. I thought this was a part where it's like, oh, this is where it really, really gets good. But for me, when I read back over the reward cycle, I was like, this is buns. Like, this is 100% buns. This is talking about, my tongue burns even getting ready to say it, the unconditional, but this is what God expects. The unconditional part of marriage, loving and respecting your spouse, is regardless of your spouse's behavior, you still act in a godly way because it's obedience to God. It basically says, regardless of if he loves, you're going to respect. And regardless if she respects, you're still going to love. And why would you do that? Because marriage is about obedience to God. Marriage is about obedience to God. Now, you don't went and took this institution because everybody say, oh, you should get married, but now you've put yourself in a covenant with God. That's why people say that. You hear them sprinkle that in. This is a covenant between God, and we in front of God and our family and member. Listen, this is something God instituted. Now, it is important. I'm gonna skip that part. God said, no, don't say that. Okay, so what happens if I've been trying these practices for a long time, even way before we started this class. I've been trying these practices and it's still not working. Or what if this class, we've been sitting in this marriage class now for 9 weeks, and I'm gonna tell you what, it's backfired. Now this class has opened up a can of worms. It's opened up some things and some, now we are in a worse place than where we started. What if this has happened? Now my spouse is using this information against me. And they're saying, well, I'm doing these raggedy things because I'm trying to protect you. Or
Because I have authority. And, you know, this is the hierarchy. Or on the other side of it, you know,
you're not loving to me ever.
You're not sure. Yeah, right. And dealing with absolutes are, you know, I want you to open to me, even though you're not trying to be open at that very moment, you know, or, you know, you're not really showing peacemaking abilities, even though I know I'm being very, very challenging. You know, I need for you to yield first, even though I know I broke that lamp, you know, whatever. So.
Ooh, I know y'all want the answer to this question. What if? The what if, right? That's hard because what the book suggests, and I'm gonna reiterate right now, is that nothing we do is wasted in the sight of God. What matters to God matters. And even when you go on the line, like literally, love and respect, to love or to respect in and of itself is a sacrifice. Especially when it's not being reciprocated over and over again, okay? You have to have faith that something is transpiring in the soul of yourself and in the soul of your spouse, and that God is working on it in his timing and in his way. Children, y'all come on in and sit in the back. Y'all come on in. Y'all can come in. I told him to stop at 7:45. In his timing and in his way. This, did you want to go do that one? The change will take time, don't do that.
Yeah. You know, this change will take time. And that's what we've been saying. It's a journey. So don't give up on your spouse responding properly to you. Don't give up on yourself making gains when you revert back to old behaviors and whenever you make mistakes.
Or if your spouse doesn't respond, like you doing all the things to respect him and he's still like, shut up.
Are trying to show love, and it's just not landing the way that you think it should land, right? You again, when you put God into the mix of it, that should give you strength to continue to move forward and say, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to be doing. So for those who have the book on page 20, you already did that. Okay. And so, that we had some other things to talk about, but I think we are at time today. Yeah, we'll pick this up.
I said those were just the game.
Yeah.
It's just a game.
Yeah, we'll pick this on up next week. But I just want to implore all of you all, you know, don't give up. Stay patient, stay prayerful. Know that God he's working. And, you know, lay those requests and those burdens at his feet. Stop just trying to do it all by yourself. I think that that's one of the things that all of us as Christians, we could easily identify with. You know, we always want to go at it alone. We keep going, and keep smacking up against the same wall. But once we start asking God, things start happening. Your marriage is no different. Your marriage is no different. Put God into the middle of it and make him the center focus of it. And so with that, that is class for today. We're going to go ahead and close out in prayer.
We're going to do it the same way we did last week, where we're going to have the couples pick. Everybody wasn't here last week. Okay. So we're going to have Anthony and Kelly to pray with Keith and Erica, and Ariel and Thad to pray with the Thigpens, and me and BJ will pray with Janice. And let's just go ahead and spend some time in prayer. You want to, Mike? Yeah, and Mike will come and pray too. Thank you. And we will spend some time in prayer. Just let the people that you're with know what you need prayer about as far as your marriage is concerned. Use this time to have some vulnerability with them. This thing ain't easy, and it helps if we're in it together. Okay, come on down, Mike. We're going to pray with you.